I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey you guys, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So first up for today, we're going to be discussing Macron taking the wheel, taking some action on this whole retirement age debacle. And then we're going to give you guys an update from Iran via Amnesty International, as well as talking about the potential sale of TikTok. So let's get into it. So for our first story today, Macron takes the wheel. So do you guys remember how the French were protesting over their government raising the retirement age by 2 years? Well, despite all of their grandstanding, the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, took matters into his own hands. He pushed the bill through without a vote. And this stands to really piss some people off, whether it's his voters or his political opponents who were chanting the French national anthem as the prime minister was speaking so as to drown out his words. Macron knew that he could not get the legislation past his competitors, so he took drastic measures and tried to save the program as a whole. That said, his enemies can oppose this measure and take steps to try and prevent it from going through, so we'll see how that plays out. Macron is actually not allowed to pursue another term. He's maxed out, so it really won't matter to his career necessarily how mad people get, but at the same time, it could tarnish his legacy in a big way. We'll definitely keep you guys posted. And the next step for today, I do have to issue a content warning here. This story involves abuse and torture of children. I wanted to give you guys an update on the Iran situation, and this comes from Amnesty International. So they are a group that essentially monitors human rights abuses internationally, and they put out a press release yesterday letting the global community know that Iran is officially incarcerating and torturing children. I'm about to get a little graphic here, so please proceed with caution, but we do need to be informed on these things. So floggings, beatings, electric shocks, even to their genitals, and sexual violence against children have all gone down in these prisons. Amnesty chronicled the stories of 7 children who have experienced this, but it is estimated that hundreds, if not thousands, of children are going through this type of abuse. They were protesting, some of them with their parents, when they were taken by police. Some were even taken by officers in plain clothes, blindfolded, and then, driven to these remote locations where they were tortured and then released in random areas away from their homes, sometimes mildly unconscious. Others were taken to known prisons and just incarcerated there after they were tortured. Here's a quote from one of the children directly. Quote, "They hung me to the point where I felt like my arms were about to rip off. I was forced to say what they wanted because they raped me with a hose pipe. They were taking my hand and forcibly making me fingerprint papers." End quote. He was then taken to a remote location where he was dumped half conscious. Here is another child describing his abuse. Quote, "They gave us electric shocks, hit me in my face with the back of a gun, gave me electric shock to my back, and then beat me on my feet, back, and hands with batons. They threatened that if we told anyone, they would detain us again and do even worse and deliver our corpses to our families." End quote. These children also experienced extremely unhygienic living conditions, extreme overcrowding, insufficient food and water, exposure to extreme cold, and no medical care for their injuries after their torture, and more. So, how does Amnesty verify this information? Well, what they do is they gather eyewitness testimony and compare the stories for accuracy. And that's why they were able to basically chronicle 7 children instead of everybody, because it would be pretty impossible to verify all of the different stories. We join Amnesty International, of course, to call for all of these children to be released and for the torture of any prisoners to cease immediately. You can donate to Amnesty International at the link in our show notes. Without them, we wouldn't have reliable data and stories like this to share with you guys. They are so brave and doing incredibly vital work. And last but not least for today, the sale, potentially, of TikTok. Okay, guys, so no one wants to hear this, but TikTok is pretty toxic for your data and privacy health. And now the Biden administration is pressuring the company to sell the U.S. parts of its company or potentially face getting kicked out of the U.S. altogether. This is a very similar stance to that of President Trump. At the time, ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, looked like they were planning to sell TikTok to Oracle, but the deal never went through. TikTok is hands down the most relevant social media platform in existence right now, so it would be shocking to see it disappear. We'll definitely keep you guys posted. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "All great achievements take time." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.